Yeah, it was a mess. It's not fun. I'm like, what did I just do?
I have a little invention I've been working on, so I've been teaching myself AutoCAD, and trust me, I know exactly where you're coming from.
I've been trying to get into Audition, to go deep into Audition is tough too. And then if you want to start really getting into it, you start going into Photoshop and all that. You're like, man, it's just easier to pay somebody. It really is.
Yeah, if it's video, for sure. If it's audio is relatively easy.
Yeah, I have no problem with the audio. I mean, I'm in there whipping that stuff up and processing, and I've got some presets in there so I can fatten up the audio. That's nothing. Compression, that's easy. Cutting it, slicing it, splicing it, edit it, that's no big deal. But when you start dropping movies in there and moving that all around, it's actually easier for me to use iMovie, which is really simple now that I have it down to a T, which is what I should have just used. But then I would have had to have taken it off anyway, and I had it recorded. No big deal. It is what it is. Drinking carbonated beverages on air. Not the smartest thing in the world, but that's okay. X and I booked rooms already for Houston for the NRA, September 3rd. I'm going to be out there September 2nd through the 5th. It's going to be an interesting year, Homer. You got Dave?
I do.
Good. Thanks. What's up, streamers? Like and share them, man. Facebook is coming after your industry. Make sure as many people see it as we can get them. Bullhead City AZ in the house.
All right, we're close.
Roger that.
And 30. Record.
This is Armed American Radio's Daily Defense.
Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, because they don't want me to, that's why I do it.
Presented by X Insurance. X Insurance. From the gunbroker.com studios on the Crossbreed Holsters Platinum microphone.
They're never going to stop us here.
It's 2021, and we're in a new decade. Here is your host, the loudest conservative voice in America fighting the enemies of freedom, Mark Walters.
Welcome inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, these gunbroker.com studios on this Crossbreed Holsters microphone. Pleasure to be with you today. I just got a text message. I wish I could read you, but I can't. It's hilarious. But suffice to say, I would just get us in trouble, and we don't need any help doing that, right? I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today and every single day. And all of this being presented to you by X Insurance, who, by the way, I will be with Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday with a group and a crew. And we will be doing some live to tape for you and having some fun. More about that in just a little bit. Yesterday's Monster Cast, wow. I mean, the first hour with Alan Gottlieb was just flat out incredible. I sat there, I took notes, I listened, and I learned as I want to do when it's Mr. Gottlieb. But if you missed it, go back and get it. Let me take the opportunity to say this before I go to my guest as well, that if you were looking for the video on Facebook or over on YouTube, my lack of editing skills screwed that up. So I will be replacing it with the video that we have that was meant for Rumble. That was my fault if you're looking for it. We'll get it back up on Facebook and get it back up on YouTube for you sometime later today. But it got way late last night when I realized I made mistakes this morning. I just said, you know what? Forget about it. Forget about it. I'll do it later today. So just to let you know. In the meantime, you can listen to the podcast over at armedamericanradio.org, or you can subscribe, of course, on your device at whatever platform you use. Hundreds of thousands of you do that every month. We appreciate it. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to go right straight to one of my favorite people on earth, Dave Workman, who is out there. This is a guy who's got the ear of Alan Gottlieb all day, any day, whenever they're in town. And I'm jealous. Dave Workman, how are you out there in the beautiful CCR, KBA, and SAF offices in Bellevue, Washington? How's it going today, Dave?
Well, I'm coming down from what might be called the previous 72 hours in the twilight zone. But and you know why I'm saying that, because of what happened on Friday.
Well, we're going to talk about all that, and I'm going to let you
just... We are going to talk about that. But otherwise, I'm doing okay for an old guy.
All right. Well, let me say this, that we've got a lot to talk about, and I want listeners to understand that on Friday, I had an extra half hour pop up quickly, and Dave came to mind because he hadn't been on the show. He wasn't on the show last week, and I wanted to know if he wanted to jump on that half hour, and his response was great, and I'm glad you did it, Dave. You said no. Dave said, no, we need together at least the hour, so let's plan on Monday. So that's why Dave is here for the full hour, and I appreciate it. There's a half hour just isn't enough time. Dave, what happened Friday?
Well, I would say that the firearms community stepped right into the twilight zone. The National Rifle Association, I'm an endowment member. I served 3 terms on the board of directors about 20 years ago. And I've been an NRA member for, for most of my adult life anyway. They filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which was very big news. It was so big that I contacted Freddie Reel right after I got notified. Freddie Reel over at AmmoLand, who is just one great guy, just to make sure that he knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially to let him know, I can't do a story for you guys because I'm covering this for Liberty Park Press and the Gun Mag. And as it turned out, I wound up doing a story, a rewrite story, essentially, over at Conservative Firing Line. So in all, it's about 1,000 words I banged out over the course of 45 minutes when this thing broke. It was stunning. To some people, it was shattering that the NRA was filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in what appears to be a strategy to move the incorporation out of New York, which is a very vindictive anti-gun government, down to Texas,
say the least.
where it's a much more friendly environment. At least some of the operations down there, I presume, would be going down there because they got a lot better bunch of people to hire from, And so I dug into that. But over the weekend, I had a chance to sit down and take a look at a copy of a letter that had been sent to board members. Cause I'm not on the board, but I wound up with a copy from a good source, and also the public message that was posted on the NRA for all the members, and they pretty much say the same thing. And there was something that just stunned me about the letter, the message, and it was that NRA is filed for Chapter 11. As I repeat that about the 15th time, but a few lines later, they're assuring the members, "Hey, NRA is not bankrupt. It's
right.
It's in good shape, probably better shape than ever." And I'm sitting there thinking, "Now, wait a minute. You either are or you're not."
You thought the same thing I did at the same point in the letter. I threw my arms up and I looked. I thought, which one is it, guys? What's the strategy here? We talked about it with Alan last night. It is confusing, no question. Go ahead.
Well, it's not that any of us don't sympathize with what's been happening to the NRA. What Letitia James up in New York has been doing is just horrible, I think. Even if there is stuff wrong with the NRA, I would at least hope that somebody a little more neutral would be conducting the investigation, because Letitia James, when she was running for the office of Attorney General, she made no bones about it. I'm going to destroy the NRA.
Right.
And you can't approach an investigation if you're coming at it with that kind of attitude. At least that's my thought. As a reporter, and I've done some investigative reporting, I really try to maintain a neutral attitude when I'm looking at something or somebody, because you never know where that's going to go.
Right.
And you can't go at something like this with preconceived notions. At least that's what I learned in journalism school about 1,000 years ago. So this thing has rocked the gun fraternity. And I know you did too. You look on social media, and that's what everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
And so here we are on Monday, and still there are questions that I think need to be answered, and I'm hopeful that all these questions will be answered. There have been some people who weighed in on this, who know a lot more about this sort of thing than obviously you or I do, who've said some interesting things. I'm going to try to contact some of those before I write any more to kind of get a feel of where this is all might go, and we'll see how this shakes out. I'm not sure this is going to be a slam bang easy thing to do. I mean, it's going to be a little more complicated than anybody realizes.
I'm in agreement with you. It is going to be messy. A couple things to point out. First, the difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 13, anybody that's studied business or anybody that knows anything about that end of the financial spectrum, Chapter 11 is used by many businesses around the country to reorganize while they continue to stay in business. Chapter 13 is designed more to eliminate certain qualified debts that a bankruptcy court decides that the business has are qualified to be eliminated, while then allowing the business to repay certain creditors over certain lengths of time, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, whatever the court decides. So having said that, it's clear that the National Rifle Association, and this is where it confused me, Dave, when you talk about, they use the word solvent. We are solvent. They essentially, LaPierre in the letter said, we've never been better off. And I'm thinking, well, how are you going to tell that? Hey, Your Honor, thank you for allowing me to speak. I've never been better off financially than I am right now, but I need your help to reorganize my finances, even though I've never been better off than I am right now. I just need to get away from that Letitia James in New York. Can you help me get to Texas? That's what this looks like in very simplistic, basic terms. And I don't think New York's going to fall for that, quite frankly. Go ahead. We got to take a break soon.
Yeah, I think in the few seconds we have left, the one thing that really is important here is there's a line in the letter and in the notice that it says this is all depending upon how a judge comes out.
Exactly.
And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute.
Dave, hold on to that thought. When we come back, we're going to continue that discussion. And then Facebook up to shenanigans again. I want to get Dave's opinion. Now banning accessory ads. What the heck's going on? Back with Dave Workman right after this. Don't go away. Guys, what's going on? Streamers. I see a couple of questions in there. John says, never understood why they were in New York, meaning the NRA. The NRA was incorporated in the 1850s in New York, back when New York was a completely different place. They've been there. They are the nation's oldest civil rights organization, but you will never hear the mainstream media tell you that, but it is true. Your gun rights are civil rights, and the NRA has been around longer than any other group out there. JT, what's going on, dog? Paul, Ron, Mark, Brian, Susie, good to see you guys. Michael Kreitzer. Marietta in Texas. Just got your X quote. Good for you. That now you're talking. That's what you need to do. Thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. You will too, believe me. Get yourself some real insurance. Craig, what time is the president going to make his move? What can I tell you, man? This has been just a fascinating time, hasn't it? Kevin, Facebook is where you're at is fine. Either one. They both come in through my restream. I see every single comment out there. Anybody has any specific questions for Dave, let me know in the comments if you're watching. Greg, what do we got?
30.
This upcoming segment of Armed American Radio is being sponsored by Gunbroker.com, the world's largest online marketplace to buy and sell firearms, ammo, and related accessories. That's Gunbroker.com. Welcome back to the show. I don't know if I'm afraid to hold up a firearm that I normally have with me in today's day and age, since we're streaming on Facebook or YouTube or not. I did yesterday, but No big deal. Maybe we'll do that in the next segment. Welcome back inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense Gunbroker.com studios. I am Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom today on this Crossbreed Holsters microphone. Every bit of this being presented to you by X Insurance. Marietta over in the comments just got her quote from X. She's letting us know. Good for you, Marietta. Welcome to the real world where you get real insurance just like you have for all of your real life things that matter to you, and not gimmicky third-party stuff written for somebody else that may or may not be there if you need it, and unrated stuff to begin with. This is the real deal. AM Best A-rated insurance for your freedom, your lifestyle, your job, your business, whatever it may be. X Insurance has you covered. More about that later. I'm talking with Dave Workman. Dave, out in the CCR KBA offices in Bellevue, Washington, out there with the Second Amendment Foundation. We were just kind of knocking back and forth the National Rifle Association. Just, huge news when that broke, no question.
Yeah.
I saw when I first found out, I just gotten off the air, actually, and Alan Gottlieb, founder of Second Amendment Foundation, listeners and viewers, sent me a text on that, and I thought, wow, I almost choked when I saw that. But what's interesting, Dave? It's business as usual. I just booked my room in Houston for the NRA convention, which is September 3rd, 4th, and 5th this year at a unusual time. It's usually in April. The convention, I believe, is going to go on. I think they're smart moving it to September. It's probably going to abate some of the, coronavirus stuff that they would have faced in April. But nonetheless, I'm hopeful that that's going to happen. And I think the NRA, with new, fresh leadership, this is what this is all about. I've been vocal about this. You have too. The NRA needs fresh, new, younger leadership to come in. And I think in the long run, I'm feeling pretty good about it. What about you?
Well, I don't think I know anybody who isn't hoping that the NRA comes out of this smelling like a rose. And whether that may require a change in leadership. We've had Wayne LaPierre there at the helm for about 30, 35 years, almost for as long as I've known him. Maybe it's time. Wayne and I are pretty much the same age, and it would be good for probably both of us to retire.
You're not allowed. You and Alan are not allowed. I'm just letting you know.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've been known to fight, kick, and scream. But there is a lot of talk that, gee whiz, maybe it's time for Wayne to step down, step aside, let some new blood in there. I don't know. I consider Wayne a friend of mine. I haven't talked to him for, 3, 4, maybe 5 years. It's one of those things where there's always something going on. But I've called, seen if I could get a comment or something from Wayne, and it never came back. So, I figured, well, he's busy doing his stuff, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff too. So we just didn't cross paths. But at some point, the NRA is going to face a new leader. I don't think Wayne is going to live forever. Neither am I. So, we're looking at that. But going to Houston, I think, if all of this gels with the relocation attempt, that'll put really the NRA right in its own backyard again, and that'll be a good thing. I think a big gala will certainly happen, and there'll be lots to celebrate, and good for them, because Texas, aside from the fact that a lot of Californians have moved over there, right, it's still NRA country. It really is. And the last time I think I was in Texas for an NRA event, it just blew the doors off that place. I mean, everybody showed up, and everybody had a great time too.
It's Texas.
Well, yeah. And gee whiz, there's nothing wrong with being part of the biggest firearms rights organization in the country, and to get together and celebrate that. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
No, of course not. Dave, the political left likes to call the NRA, this is the new buzzwords now, domestic terrorists, Maxine Waters, the rest of these lunatics.
Oh, yeah.
But it's important that we point out, because when we talk about the National Rifle Association, viewers, listeners, when you listen to programs like this, we're going to give you the straight dope. We're not feeding you the narrative, the bullet points that the left-wing media is feeding you. The left-wing media makes you believe through gaslighting techniques. Frankly, you're going to hear that term come out of my mouth over the next several years because that's what's getting ready to happen to you. Mainstream media in full swing right now, gaslighting you like crazy, making you think you're nuts. You know, you're a Trump supporter, you're nuts. Half the country is nuts. They're all right. That's coming. But when it comes to the National Rifle Association, where they gaslight the crap out of you, is they have you believe that the National Rifle Association is the gun lobby. The NRA is 5 million members. That's what the NRA is. Frankly, the NRA should be 105 million members, which would be more reflective of the gun lobby, which is 100+ million law-abiding Americans. And you know, our friend Jeff Knox over at Ammo Land wrote a really nice piece about this. I would recommend you go read it, folks. Biden pledges to beat the NRA, but he cannot beat the citizen gun lobby because you are the gun lobby, not the National Rifle Association. That's just the organization that has 5 million members that represents those who are members and not members. Am I phrasing that properly, Dave?
Yeah. In fact, Jeff's dad, Neil, and I served together on the NRA board way back when. And I thought Neil was a friend of mine, too. I considered him a friend. We disagreed on some stuff, but you know, at the end of the day, if you ever had to get into a fight about gun rights, Knox, you'd want him covering your six. I can tell you that.
You wanted him on your side for sure.
And Neil he had this habit of doing, and it really livened up the audience. Whenever he spoke, the first words out of his mouth were, "Hello, gun lobby," and the meaning of that was simple. You are the gun lobby. Right. All of you people out there, whether you agree on anything else, even about what kind of guns somebody ought to have, you're a gun owner and you're part of that great big family of the more or less activists and people who hopefully vote. So, yeah, you're the gun lobby. You're the people that in 48 hours or less than 48 hours, Joe Biden and Congress are probably going to be declaring a war on. Let's be honest about this.
Yeah.
You know, the Biden-Harris team, they're not coming in there to be your best new buddies. And that's just that.
No, you just hit the nail on the head. We're getting ready to take a break, so let me stop you right there because we're going to go there when we come back in this next segment. In the next 48 hours, that is precisely what is getting ready to happen. And I've got some fun stuff up here to talk with Dave Workman about what Biden pledges to do on day one and what that's going to mean for you going forward. We have got to stay awake. As you heard me say if you were listening to the Monster Show last night, I'll tell you about that when we come back. Dave Workman here from Bellevue, Washington. We'll be back after this. Don't go away. Be right back.
All right.
Back at you, hombre. What's the day's conspiracy theorist, Greg? What's the theory today?
Give me a minute. These breaks are supposed to be 4 minutes, right?
Yep. Why? $30?
Back to Armed American Radio's Daily Defense with Mark Walters.
Indeed, welcome back inside Armed American Radio's Daily Defense, the gunbroker.com studios. The Crossbreed Holsters microphone lit up. Every bit of it brought to you today by X Insurance. I see a number of people have picked up X Insurance. I know you got to understand there's a reason they're taking the firearms industry by storm. I'll be traveling with X this week, bringing you all kinds of really cool content with we'll be talking to some vendors, some attendees, all kinds of fun stuff, kind of like a virtual SHOT Show, because this would normally have been the week SHOT would have been occurring, or at least within this 5 to 7 day frame. So we miss it this year, but we got what we got, and we're going to do the best we can for you to try to bring you something anyway. So I'm looking forward to that. You'll hear from myself and X from Central Florida, down in Southern Florida anyway, in the coming few days. Dave Workman, welcome back in the broadcast with me. It's great to have you here, my friend. You want to go ahead and exclamation point what we were talking about in the previous half hour, and then let's move on?
Well, yeah, there is one thing that I want to remind people of, and it's in the NRA letter and their message to the members, and this is important. All of this is subject to court approval.
Right.
They say that right up front. Now, depending on where the judge is, if it's a judge in New York, good luck with that. If it's a judge in Texas, maybe they're going to get a favorable ruling. I don't know. I'm no bankruptcy judge. I'm not even a bankruptcy attorney, so I can't say how all of this is going to shake out. But it's going to be a kind of a complicated thing. It's not going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. Everybody needs to be a little patient to see where all of this is going to go. And in the meantime, we're all just bracing for the worst and hoping for the best. And I guess that brings us around to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
It does. And that's a great segue. That's where we wanted to go in this half hour. But before I do that, there's some comments. I'm seeing some comments inside some of the viewers who are watching online, and we appreciate it. Mm-hmm. A number of them are, why is the NRA going to Houston? Houston's a red city, or Houston's a blue city. Let me make this very clear. Most big cities are blue inside. Okay, but here's something that I want to point out, Dave, and I think you'll agree with me on this. As the GRPC, I love going to the belly of the beast. I love bringing the gun rights policy conference to downtown Chicago when we go. I love
it. Makes them crazy.
Oh, I know, and it's fun to get freedom in there. Believe me, there are people in those cities that are starved for their gun rights and starved to see a National Rifle Association. It's great to go into the belly of the beast in the bigger cities that are blue sometimes. It drives the local politicians nuts. They get all weird and start worrying about all the gun nuts walking around, and of course nothing happens, and the streets are cleaner when we leave than they were when we got there, that whole thing. But that's why, we're not afraid to go into the belly of the beast and go into some of those cities. And as a member, that's all I am. I don't work for the NRA. They've never called and asked me my opinion on anything. And I'll just simply tell you, as a member, I enjoy going to places like that for the NRA convention. It's a great place to show off really who the gun-owning public and law-abiding gun owners are. That we're not what the mainstream media is gaslighting millions upon millions of Americans to believe that we are. Now, let's talk a little bit about that, because we are getting ready to face, Dave, as you are aware, what is going to be a very difficult, at least 2 years, if not longer, and probably the first couple of months, if not right on day one, Biden has vowed to come after us as gun owners, as law-abiding Americans, and he's got a lot of help behind him, brother, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Naturally, he's got Capitol Hill. Let's be honest. He's got a majority in the House of Representatives, and they got a 50-50 split plus one, which is Kamala Harris, in the U.S. Senate. So it's going to be a real tough audience, and like Johnny Carson used to say, going in for this on day one. And Biden has made no secret about his plans for gun owners. He wants one gun a month. He wants to have the states adopt requirements that you need to get a license before you can buy a gun. He wants something, enhanced background checks, whatever the hell those are. Right. He wants, to ban the future sale and production of so-called assault rifles and so-called high-capacity magazines, which are really semi-automatic firearms and original capacity magazines. He wants to do all of that stuff. But he might run into some problems over on Capitol Hill because in 2 years the House is going to have to face re-election again. The Senate, I think a third of them come up for election or re-election again. And right now I think gun owners are going to have really long memories, and they're going to pay attention to how these people vote. I don't think they're going to allow another election to wind up as questionable as the last election. And, we're going to get a good idea of where that is in Virginia this coming November, because in Virginia they have the state legislative races in off years. And this November, 2021, they're going to have the state legislative races. And if the gun owners in Virginia are still as angry as they were at this time last year, Virginia is going to go all Republican, and they're going to have a Republican governor if those people would vote.
I don't want to disagree with you on that. I predicted Virginia, because of the gun owner vote, was going to turn red in the presidential election in 2020, and I was off on that prediction. Now in the state, and Virginia is a funny place. I have a lot of friends there. I have a long history personally there. I have family there. Graduated college there. I lived there from the time I was 18 years. I know the state well, and it has changed a lot. But when you've got that one or two northern counties that are dictating everything else for what is a bright red state, and you get that weird dynamic in play with the politicians claiming they have a mandate, yet 99% of the counties, including the governor's own home county, say, hell no, get your hands off my guns. We're a Second Amendment sanctuary. A lot of this just doesn't seem to make sense. And I hope you're right. And I know VCDL very well. And I know those guys and gals up there are going to make damn sure that everybody in the state of Virginia remembers exactly what they had to go through. I could see the legislature flipping back to red. I could see the governorship staying blue. And from what I understand, you got that sleazebag McAuliffe running again. Come on, Virginia. That's true. You got to do better than this. You find some Virginian, okay? Find yourself a good Virginian from down in Southwest Virginia, all right, down around Roanoke. Get somebody in there that knows that state well and can run. Boy, that's a mess down there. But, boy, as we said, Dave, as goes Virginia, so goes the nation if the wrong thing happens. And I think we're getting ready to see that on steroids. No question about it, brother.
Well, we're going to find out one way or the other over the horizon. And there's 11 months between now and the election in Virginia. That gives activists down there 11 months to get organized, to get all their ducks in a row, to stop fighting with each other. Yeah. That is the most destructive thing, especially in the gun community. They fight with each other. When the enemy sits back their enemy sits back and watches it and say, hey, this is fun. Give me some more popcorn. And then they'll go out and kick your butt in November. 2 years ago, well, a year and a half ago now, the Virginia gun owners were really asleep at the switch. They had a 40% turnout in a race that should have had 80 to 90% turnout of voters, if not 100%.
30.
And it was embarrassing. But then again, they woke up the morning after the election demanding to know, hey, how come this didn't happen? How come we lost? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And well, the response to that was, well, what did you do? Did you vote? Well, I don't want my name on the list. Or, well, I forgot. Well, give me a break.
Come on. Let's take it to the break here with this. You're already on a list, pal and palette, okay? You might as well go out and vote. Listen, there's no reason that an election, particularly in the political environment we're in the United States today, that these races should be 100%. You're fixing to see, as we say down south of the Mason-Dixon line, why we need you to vote in the coming 48-plus hours. And I'm wondering, can Georgia, do we get a new Senate race soon? Back after this.
Hey, man.
Yo.
So I need you to, when you get a chance, send me a rundown of the bottom of the hour break, or if you just want to send me the whole show, that's fine, but specifically the bottom of the hour, because it was a 30-second spot short, and I had to try to throw something in there real quick, which did not work.
How could that possibly have been? Did we come back at the wrong time?
I believe we did this time, but I don't believe we have in the past. I believe it's always been 4 minutes, so I'm not too certain why it was that way.
All right, hold on. I'll give you the rundown right now.
All right.
And you match it up. You got the playlist in front of you. You got the rotation in front of you.
Go ahead.
All right, hold on. Let me pull it up here. Break 2, Allen, 60-second SAF, 30-second gun broker, 30-second car, 30-second North American Arms, 60-second me, and a 30-second Defender.
Okay, I need to get that Defender in there then. I just threw X Insurance in there because it was the first 30-second spot I could see.
Okay.
But we've
Not
got
sure how that came out. How would that come out? Whatever, doesn't matter. As long as you know what to do.
Yeah.
Roger that.
That was so weird.
I was wondering why you asked that, whether it's 4 minutes. There you go, viewers. You get to watch the sausage made. Love it.
A little behind the scenes.
I had an idea something was up when you said these breaks are 4 minutes, right? Okay. And then, boom, we went right to music.
Yeah. Yeah, something was weird there. I don't know for sure what happened. I'll get it fixed here in a minute. All right, it's good.
Roger that. Scott will have to go in and take a look at that. Scott says he doesn't remember the car spot.
Last break?
I'm assuming so, yeah.
It was there. It aired.
Okay.
Well, we're good now, so it's inconsequential, but that just was a weird moment.
Final segment already. What the heck?
Yeah. All right, we're close. About 10 seconds. $30.
The following segment of Armed American Radio is being brought to you by Defender Coffee. When you drink Defender Coffee, you're making a donation to a gun rights organization of your choice that protects and defends your freedoms. Welcome back to the show. I am not drinking Defender Coffee today. I'm actually drinking ice water today, and I had a little bit of Red Bull. Wasn't in a coffee mood today. I was up very late last night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, getting a lot of work done and solving the world's problems with some fine folks over at Lead Slingers, talking some shop with those guys, with Brad in particular. So it was a very long day. Sundays usually are for me, as are Mondays, because the show ends late on the Eastern zone, in the Eastern time zone. So anyway, let me very quickly give you a rundown of the rest of our sponsors. Please support them. I mean, we need to stay together now more than ever. Of course, leadslingerswhiskey.com. Check them out. Second Amendment Foundation. My Pillow. Mike Lindell, man, just going nuts out there in support of Donald Trump. Car Arms. Gunbroker.com Studios. If you can't find it in your shop, you can find it at Gunbroker. We all know that. It costs you nothing to visit Gunbroker. Defender Coffee. Seriously, drink coffee, support the Second Amendment, donate your profits like I do to the Second Amendment Foundation. That's a duh. That's just one of those things you should do. Of course, I mentioned Car Arms already, and I mentioned North American Arms. I mentioned Defender Coffee. Front Sight, we're getting ready. I spoke with Front Sight again today for another hour. We are getting ready to put together some fun stuff. I've been saying that. As soon as I have more information, I will let you know. Suffice to say, it doesn't cost you anything to support Armed American Radio through Front Sight. It's really simple. Frontsight.com/Mark. Go there. Listen to what Dr. Piazza has to say. Get your course certificate. Use it. Don't use it. Stick it in a drawer. Do whatever you want with it. And guess what? Costs you nothing. And should you decide to go to the 4-day course, it's paid for. Dr. Piazza has you covered. And just the action of getting the certificate supports Armed American Radio and helps keep us on the air. Very, very, very important. And as I mentioned, all of this is being presented to you by X Insurance. Stop playing around with gimmicky member plans and worrying about getting free range bags and all that stuff, and get an insurance policy just like you would have that covers your home, your life, your health, your toys, your businesses. Get real. In today's day and age, that is critical. xinsurance.com. Get a free quote from them over there and find out what you could have. Same coverage I have, 100, 250, 500 is what I've got. Far better than anything from the member plans. Doesn't even come close. Dave Workman, welcome back. Let's do this. As we said, the next 48 hours are going to be telling. The next 72 hours are going to be telling. I'm very concerned that what we saw in Virginia is going to be the model for national. We've talked about it for 2 years. I don't see any indication at all that I'm wrong. And if, in fact, I'm right, it will make Virginia look like child's play. Everything is on the chopping block. And here's the first words out of Biden's mouth were on day one. He said day one, he wants to see to it that legislation is moved into the House at least. It won't be, it's going to have to go through the Senate. That might be a little tougher, no doubt. But the removal, or I should say the dismantling of the Protection of Lawful Commerce and Arms Act, we talked about that with Alan last night, that right there would bankrupt or open doors for bankrupting every gun manufacturer in the country. Frightening or what?
Well, yeah, that was the strategy 20 years ago when they started filing a bunch of these junk lawsuits. That's what they were initially called, junk lawsuits. I called them harassment lawsuits, same thing. And the idea there was to file so many legal actions that it would literally bankrupt the firearms industry in their efforts to defend what they do, which is constitutionally protected, really. The right to keep and bear arms certainly would include the right to operate a business where you could provide those arms to the public. But you talk about, and you mentioned this just a minute ago, what you're seeing in Virginia. Pay close attention to what goes on there. I think there's something else that's going on right now in front of our faces that we need to pay attention to even more. Right now, there are 22,000, maybe 25,000 National Guard troops armed to the teeth surrounding the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. In every state capital, there are reportedly armed detachments of National Guard troops protecting state capitals. Now, the last time I looked at this place. It was the United States, not a police state. And what we're allowing to have happen in this country, in our state capitals, should be alarming to everybody, because we're starting to look like a banana republic. When you have troops required to turn out to keep the people, or potentially riotous people, or I know the allegations are there,
Right.
Away from the elected officials, there's really something wrong with that. At least I think that. Now, I don't know if you agree with that or not, but
No, I do.
We've turned our capitals into defensive fortresses. You go to Olympia, Washington, for example, or Richmond, or any of these places. What's surrounding the Capitol now? It's not the people. It's a bunch of chain-link fences, some of them with razor wire on top. That's not the United States that I grew up in. And if that's what it takes to make sure that Joe Biden becomes the next president, that's bothersome to me. It says we don't trust the public. Sure, there was a riot.
Right.
Back on the 6th in Washington, D.C. Nobody's going to deny that because it was on television. But, you're talking about not even everybody who turned out for that thing. You're a couple of hundred people out of a crowd of, like 100,000 or something?
Far bigger than that. Far bigger than that.
It was maybe 200,000.
Yeah, but let me stop you for just a second, because I do agree with you on that. And let me throw this question out. Is it necessary? Okay. What is it? Why are we seeing it? Because of perceived threats. We're being told perceived threats by who? The media is telling us that there are threats. The media is telling us that the FBI is saying that there are threats. Listen, I don't know what they have. I have no idea. Could they have those? They absolutely could. Could they not have them? They absolutely could not. Maybe now, simply because of what happened on the 6th, they've put the show of force in there. Is that necessary? I don't have the answer to that question. I guess that remains to be seen, does it not? But Dave, and let's talk about these armed marches on capitals. We've talked about these before. I'm pretty well known in this field. I've been talking about this on national radio for years. I'm a life member of a number of groups. I'm plugged in to the grassroots organizations in my own state, and I've not heard anything or been asked to attend or gotten information about any armed march on the Capitol here in the state of Georgia. So I don't know who's doing this. Maybe you do in Washington. I don't. My recommendation is, if I'm not going to give you my recommendation. You're a free American. I'll leave it at that. But you got the next 20 seconds, Dave. I'm sorry. We had to go. We're going to a break and we're ended. I apologize.
That's okay. All I can say is to Mr. and Mrs. America, pay attention to what's going on in your country right now, because it ain't a good thing. It really is not.
No, it's a frightening thing, and we didn't even have a chance, because time flies so fast in this fastest hour on weekday radio. We didn't even have a chance to go into the destruction of your First Amendment rights by the very people who want your second. Dave Workman, we'll talk about that. We're going to have plenty to talk about in the coming days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Dave Workman out there at the CCR KBA offices in Washington. I'm Mark Walters, filling your prescription for freedom. We're going to get up and do it again tomorrow. Carry on, carry often, carry absolutely everywhere. Never leave your cave without your club. Enjoy the rest of your day. We'll see you on the radio.
You've just filled your prescription for freedom with Mark Walters, presented by X Insurance. X Insurance on the Armed American Radio Network.
unbelievably quick hour, man.
Always is.
Yeah, but I lost even the time on that segment. Got me on that when I was prepared to ask a question that I didn't even realize. I glanced up on it. Oh no, here we go again.
Yeah, here we go with 20 seconds.
I'm like, oh, dude, really seriously? 200 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna go to bed and pray every night that somehow Georgia finds a way to have another senatorial election in 2022.
I don't think there will ever be another fair election again. It will go all blue within 10 years, and then we will have to shoot our way out because we're going to allow this to stand.
You heard Greg. There you go. That was Greg. Greg, you need to have your own show, dude.
No. My biggest question right now is what happened to the old saying that when the people fear the government, there is tyranny. When the government fears the people, there is liberty.
Liberty. Now, Scott Templeton in here just said, oh, say that shit again, Greg. There you go, Greg. Go for it. Say that again. Scott, I think you got the message. Brent says, Greg's right. Ron says, I'm with Greg on that thought process. Robin says, how can there be, Greg? Paul says, I think Greg is right.
I hate to be right about these things too, because it's usually terrible things.
Yeah, this is an issue that we're going to find out in We're going to find out in the next House election.
2 years, we'll know.
2 years, we're going to know. We're going to have our answer in 2 years. There's
most of us in our gut already know because we're filled with terrible resolve. But we will know for certain for those that are fence riding or those that are just calling people conspiracy theorists, whatever, they will know as well.
Salem Medio in Orlando. I agree with him. Vern, Greg knows people need to listen. Yeah, this is the question. This is what's happening. That's where we're at. No question about it. All right, guys, great program again today. Greg, thanks, dude. I'm going to go ahead and cut you loose. We're all set for the bottom of the hour break, right? You need any more slots?
Yeah, no, I got that situated. We're good.
Sounds good, Holmes. I will see you on the radio tomorrow. By the way, I'm not being picked up on Thursday until 7 o'clock, wheels up on that X-Jet. So I will be able to be live on Thursday. Okay.
Oh, okay.
I'll split directly from the studio over to the airport to get picked up.
Hit the old power switch and hit the door.
I'm done. May get my podcast up a little bit late, but no, I think I'll be okay because wheels up are going to be at 7 o'clock, so I'll be good to go. All right, man. See you on the radio.
All right, man.
Later.
Bye.
God love Greg, huh? Don't forget food prep. Been there, surfed it, got it. Hope you do too. All right, guys. Been a long day, been a long night, been a long morning. Sundays usually lead into very long Mondays for me on this end. I'm going to get the podcast up for you here in a few minutes and call it quits for the day. And see you on the radio tomorrow. Back at it first thing in the morning. Talk to you in a little bit. Thanks for being here.